Hey friends, today I'm going to guide you through the Adobe Firefly Video Editor. This video is sponsored by Adobe Firefly, so thank you to them for sponsoring today's videos. Now, as I'm going to guide you through this, I will put all of the chapters down in the description down below, so go down and save this video for yourself, and because you might want to come back and refer to it in the future, and you can jump between those chapters to decide which ones actually matter to you and which ones are important to you right now. But I'm going to guide you through from the beginning, going through all of the menu options and then looking at the timeline. So let's dive in and take a look. Now, I will assume that you know how to sign up to Adobe Firefly, or maybe you've already signed up. If you haven't, I'll put a link down in the description below for you to try Adobe Firefly free for a certain amount of time. And also right now they are running a promotion where you can enjoy unlimited generations up until the 16th of March. You can see that on my screen here. So this is the home screen of Adobe Firefly. I do have an Adobe Firefly beginner's guide, so if you're wanting to dive into that, that will be also down in the playlists, and I'll link that in the description for you. But this is the home screen, and on the home screen you can see there's these new ways to create, and one of these ways is the new video editor in Adobe Firefly, and we can see here this is the beta version. Now, to get started, we're going to just click on the beta version here, and that's going to then open up a new screen for us. Now, on this screen we can see we've got a few really kind of like helpful prompts. It's not too cluttered, I don't think. We've got getting started. We can open up our recent timelines. We can see those down here underneath. We can start a new project, or you can start from uploading your media. Now, you do also have the option to start with popular workflows, so you can start by generating a new video that will then open up the timeline, or you can browse your generation history. Now, one of the benefits of using the Adobe Firefly Video Editor is that you can easily access all of your generations, whether that's video or whether that's images. You can access them all really easily from within the timeline video editor as well. And then below that, we've got our popular social media platforms, whether it's TikTok, YouTube or Instagram. We've got all of those options here for you. I'm going to dive in and take a look at a timeline that I've already started. So let's take a look at that. Now, this is a lightweight video editor by Adobe Firefly, and it is being developed right now. That's why it's in beta mode. So if you don't have it, then you'll kind of just have to keep a lookout for it. But if you do have it, it is in beta mode, and it is only available on desktop right now. So if you're using on mobile or on an iPad, you probably won't see access to that. You're going to have to access this via the desktop. But this is the video editor timeline. Now, we can see up here, we can like rename our actual projects if you like. So this is one that I just labeled Goals for 2026. And we can see here, we've got this where it says Timeline 1, and that's because you can actually create multiple timelines using the same footage. So if I click on the burger menu up here, we can see we can go to create, we can create a new timeline or open recent. And if I click on this one, you see here we've got goals for 2026 and it says timeline 2. That's where I've got access to the same footage and media, but it's actually a timeline 2. You can see there I could then start building a separate timeline. Maybe it's for a different aspect ratio, and I'm going to show you how to switch between aspect ratios later on, but that's how you can kind of like switch between different timelines. So if I wanted to name this different timeline, I wanted to create this and call it IG short or something like that, then that's where I could maybe record a different intro for it to be more kind of like Instagram friendly or something else like that. And I can just create those different timelines. Really handy feature there inside of the Firefly editor. So let's come back to the burger menu. I'm going to collapse this little menu here for a second. I'm going to come back to the burger menu. You can see here you've got new timeline, open recent. This is where you've got access to all of your recent documents or projects that you've been creating. You've got a couple of edit options here. So you've got the normal kind of like undo, redo, copy, paste and things like that. We can also clip. So if we switch back to the other timeline, I realize I didn't switch back. We want to go back to timeline 1. Okay, we can see now we've got that selected. We can go here and we could clip, we can split, trim to the beginning, trim to the end. You've got all of these keyboard shortcuts here as well, so make a note of those. If you are someone that uses keyboard shortcuts, they are available here inside of the Adobe Firefly Editor, which makes editing a lot easier, I find sometimes, once you get used to using those keyboard shortcuts. You don't have to try and learn them all in one day, but teach yourself kind of like one or two every now and then they start becoming kind of like almost like natural that you do it with your fingers. There's a word for it and I can't remember what that is. You can then come here and you can view your media, your generation history, text, transition, properties, and this is accessing these options down here, and we can then come down, we can either import additional media or export once we are happy with the actual final video. You can also export by clicking on the download button up in the top right hand corner here. Now we've got our burger menu there, we've got our media. Now this is where you're going to be able to import external media. So it might be media or like video files, images, or anything else like that that you've not created inside of Adobe Firefly that you want to import. And you can just click on add and you can upload there your media, or you can create a new timeline if you want to. Okay, now the next item on our menu here is our generation history. Now we can click on generate new if we wanted to, and that will pop out an option here where you can generate a new video, and it's going to pop out this option here where you can choose the Firefly models and go through the normal generation history, but you can also go and generate it externally and that will then show up in your generation history. You can see here this is a video that I've just generated separately outside of this and it's already showing up here. So that's how you can generate a new video inside of the Firefly Video Editor. We can also see here we can choose and filter by video, image or audio. So if we're looking for a particular audio, we can see there we've got our audio that we've generated, we've got our images, and we've also got our video, or we can filter by all. And you also do here have the option to filter by favorites. Now in order to favorite a video, you would come to the generation history externally, and then when you see these, you can see you can actually favorite these, and this is the one here that I favorited, and you can see here on the timeline that if I filter by favorites, that is the audio that I am trying to look for. So if you can't find something in the list there, you could jump over, find it in your generation history, favorite it, filter by favorites, and then it'll be easier to find from the timeline editor here. Now, if you are clicking on generate new and you choose one of these other options, which is image, soundtrack, sound effects or speech, it will open up the separate areas inside of Adobe Firefly. This is the speech area, which as well is in beta, and if you've not seen my tutorial on that, I'll link that down below. It's all in my Firefly video editing playlist. We've also got the soundtrack options, and you can jump to those from within inside the video editor here, and you can generate those really easily, and then they'll show up again inside of your generation history. Again, this is why I am really liking this as a video editor or a lightweight video editor, is because I can easily access all of those image generations and video generations, audio generations and everything else like that, all within inside of the timeline editor here. The next item on the list here is generating or adding text to our video, and we can see down here from the timeline we've added some text here, and this is really easy. We've got some of these kind of like templatey looking kind of like text items, and all of these are editable. So if say you wanted to add this one here, you can see all of this is editable. So if you weren't offering 25% off, you could offer 15% off, and you can also edit and change the colors of these by opening up the properties panel at the side here, and we're going to walk through this when we come over to the right hand side panel. But you can edit all of the text in there, changing all of the fonts, the colors. If you just choose to add your own text, again you can come over to the properties panel, change all of the text, the fonts, etc., all in the side here in the properties panel. I just want to say, if you are enjoying this video or finding it useful so far, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. If you want to click that like button button. Maybe you want to save this for your future self. Maybe you want to kind of refer back to this or watch another section again in the future. As I say, I do have all of the chapters down there below, and I will be also producing and creating more videos for Adobe Firefly as I'm an Adobe Firefly ambassador. But let's get in and continue looking at that menu once you've clicked all of those buttons. Now, the next item we have down the side here is actually transitions. As of right now, in this beta video editor, there is just the two options. There's a dissolve and a fade to black. And these are really simple to add to your timeline. You just simply drag and drop them down below two clips. You can see I've added this one here where we can see we actually dissolve in between. And you can just drag the corners here and change how long this dissolves over. You can also open up the properties panel and alter the transition timing here, depending on whether that's the dissolve one or the fade to black option. And that's transitions that are available right now inside of the Adobe Firefly Video Editor. Next and last final one that's hiding down this left hand side menu here is this little keyboard, and this is all your keyboard shortcuts. So this is a really good one if you want to take a screenshot right now of all of these or go and create your own. You can do, but you can pause the video and take a screenshot of all of those keyboard shortcuts that you can use inside of the Adobe Firefly Video Editor. So that's the left hand panel all gone through, and now let's dive in and take a look at the actual video editor timeline. We can see here this is our selection tool, and then we've also got our trim tool. So we can come in here and choose to trim if we wanted to and snip there. If you hover over the actual timeline editor or the actual item that you want to trim, that's where you'll see these scissors actually appear, and that's where you could then choose to trim that particular part of the video. And again, you can just come back to the select tool, or if you are on trim, if you press V on the keyboard, you can see that that actually switches back to the select tool. Now, this is a multi-layer video editor, so you can easily move things around to different layers if you wanted to and have things layer up there, whether that's extra text or anything else like that that you wanted to add in there. You could have those in there, and you can also move your audio to be at the around on there, and you can see that they are all color coded. So we've got text is purple, video is blue, and our audio is green, and that helps us keep track of what each actual layer is, and kind of like visually is, I find it more appealing. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I find is more appealing. So we've got our different options there where we can actually multi-layer this video editor timeline. Now, a good thing about this is, like normally, as I say, you'd come in, you can see here, I've got a long pause before actually kind of like coming in and starting to speak. However, with the Firefly Video Editor, we've actually got the option to edit our video via text. And we can see here, we've actually got these 2-second 3 dots here. You can see it's actually highlighted that where I've highlighted those 3 dots, it's actually highlighted it on here. And within the actual video editor text area here, we can kind of like assign a speaker, we can add text to a timeline, we can correct the transcript if we wanted to, or we can actually just delete that, and that will then delete that particular pause off there. And it's the same if you are speaking. Let's say I messed up a line and I wanted to delete this particular part here. You can see as I start highlighting it up in the text up here, it actually highlights it down in the timeline, and you can then just click delete, and there that is deleted. And again, one of the things that I find really helpful is if I wanted to just kind of like, say I was saying something significant, I wanted to kind of like just have those words pop up on the screen or something like that, I can actually then come and add that text to the timeline. You can see here, if I just add that, I can see plans are for 2026, and it can then come into the properties panel and change the actual text that I want. I want something bolder, I want something brighter, and this is where we can then start editing those elements inside of here. Now, the properties panel here will change depending on what you do have selected. So right now we've got some text selected, and we can see that I can change the text, I can change the kind of like what it is, like the weight of it, I can change the position, rotate it, change the opacity, change the color of it. and we can choose a custom color, and that's going to bring up our options to select a transparency amount, move it around all of the items on here, or even put in our hex code. So say if we've got a particular code color that we want to use from our brand or something like that, we can put in our actual hex code. And I would really like it to be able to access our brand kits from our kind of like, if there was kind of like an area in Adobe where we had our brand that worked across every kind of like program, that would be really good and useful. Or you can just click on the eyedropper and you can pick an option there, and there we go. That's where you can edit those. If you click on a video, you can see on a video the properties panel then changes. Again, you can change the position, scale, you can rotate it, you can change the opacity, speed, and you can see here the duration. And you can also, if your video has audio attached to it, you can change the volume. And again, that's the same for the audio right now. With the audio, you can only change the volume. I'm hoping in the future they opt in and add things where you can actually like dip and things like that. In the middle here, we can see, if I select on this, we can see this is where we've got our kind of like timings, and we can like take a step back 1 second at a time. We've got the play button, step forward 1 second at a time, and we can also see the total runtime of the video. As we move over to the right hand side, this is where we can actually then change the aspect ratio. So say I was like, oh, this wasn't meant to be a vertical video, I could come in here and change the aspect ratio to be a YouTube video. Now, yes, I'm going to have to then come in and adjust my clips, etc., but that's where you can quite easily adjust the actual aspect ratio of the timeline if you wanted to. And I find that really useful, really helpful to be able to change the aspect ratio there. Here we can zoom in and out of the timeline, so this is really helpful. You can see more of the actual timeline available here. And then this option here where it says skimmer, this is where, as you can see, as I'm going over here and just like moving my mouse, you can see you can visually see on the panel there what I'm actually hovering over. If we turn this off, then you can see it only shows where the actual playhead is, and in order to kind of like see where you're going, you have to click and drag this item on there. So that's really helpful, and it's also really good because if you are kind of like, let's say you have this on here and you kind of like say like, I don't know, I was here and I suddenly said like, oh, I want to split there. So I used the keyboard shortcut. You can see it's actually splitting here where I'm hovering over it, not where my playhead is at. So that's something to be aware of when you are kind of like navigating, moving around, as to whether you've actually got this skimmer on or not. And then you've got snap mode. Now snap mode again is useful. You can see here, let's say we've got this text here. You can see I can actually snap that to the middle. But if I wanted to be a bit more precise, let's say I only wanted it to kind of like jump over there a little bit. If I turn off the snap mode, you can see this is a lot easier to kind of like refine and move that across there. So I could have that come on a lot kind of like easier to kind of like navigate it around, as opposed to having the snap on there. You can see with snap on, it kind of like jumps back. Yes, you can come back, but then it kind of like pulls it into where you've got that change of video clips, or maybe it's audio or something else like that. That's where you're going to be able to do that. And again, you can multi-layer up, and then you can see here, this is where you've got those snap guidelines on here, so you can see where you're actually snapping to. So that's the video editor timeline. If you've got any questions on that, do drop them down in the comments below. Let's dive in and take a look at a couple of other menu options that I want to show you. Up in the top here, we do have our downloader options, and we've also got a quick cut option. Now I will come onto that in a future video, so if you want to see that working and how to use quick cut, then we will cover that off in a future video. We've also got this little like chemical box here, and this is where you can share your feedback. So if you wanted to submit an idea, report a bug, or join the Firefly Video Editor beta community, you can do, and all those good options there. You've also got the user guide here, keyboard shortcuts, and also where you can check out known issues in here. Then down the right, yes, it is the right hand panel, we've got our properties panel, and we've looked at this so far. Right now we've got nothing selected on our timeline, so we can change the actual aspect ratio and also the frame rate on there of our actual timeline. As we click different things here, we can see we've got our text here. We've got some options here to edit and adjust the text. That's actually a group, which is why it doesn't show up as the other things. Edit to me, just jumping in. One of the things I realized I didn't say is if you've got the group things here, where you might have added in from the kind of like the template text, if you want to edit these, when I showed it you in the video, it couldn't seem to kind of like change the font, etc. What you have to do is actually double click into this, and that will then allow you to change the fonts, the colors, etc. on those items here. And you can also, I think if you click on these, can you ungroup them some way? There doesn't seem to be a way to ungroup those that I can see right now, but hopefully they change that in the future. But you can double click into them and then change those particular items and change the fonts, etc. if that's something that you are wanting to do. So yeah, let's go back to it. But we can see here where I've got this San Francisco option here. We can see there where I've actually got that selected. You can now obviously see here, we can flip this, we can flip it vertically, we can rotate it, we can adjust the alignment, all the normal things you would expect to see in a text kind of like properties panel. We can justify alignment, we can change the text weighting, italicize it, we can rotate it, opacity, we can fill, we can add outlines if we wanted to. So you can see here we've got an outline, and again you click on this and then you can just click and choose the outline that you want, the actual size of the outline. You can see as we increase this number, we can increase the outline color. We can add a background. Let's make this look really, really bad. Let's add a green. Actually, that doesn't look too bad, to be fair. We can add a background, and then we can also add a shadow to our text if we wanted to. And then we can open up the shadow options, and we can change and adjust the blur, the angle, and the distance of the blur of the text on our video. So there's a lot there to cover off. As I say, we do also then have a video editor extra area where if you select the video inside of the properties panel, you can change all of those items in there. The next item down here is our generation options, and this is where you can generate directly from within the video editor. You can generate a short video clip. Let's say you wanted to generate something that had a first clip and a last clip. You could choose the first clip to be, let's say we were here, and I wanted, hang on, that's got a transition in. Let's choose something a little bit different. Okay, let's say we've got this here. We wanted our first clip to be our current frame, and we wanted to then transition into something else, into a last frame. We can then choose that. Let's say we had something in our Adobe Cloud Storage. Let's say it was this one, and we wanted to create our own custom transition. We could do that. And that's where I was kind of like playing about with the item that I added up here. So this was one that I added, and we can see here what I've done with this one is I had a couple of images. So if I come to my Firefly boards, what I had was like one of my images here. So I had this, and I wanted to transition from this into an image of my face from when I went snowboarding. And we can see now it's going to transition from this still image that I created into an image of my face. And we can see there it's going to do it. There we go. So that's how you can use the frames, like the first frame and the last frame on there, to create a video or like your own custom transition using the first and the last frame. And you could then maybe like build those up. So you could then use the last frame as the first frame in the next video, and then transition that into the next one, and go on and so forth, and create one long video if you like. Maybe that's something that I will have a look at, how to create that and create that in the future on a future video. So if that's something you want to kind of like check out a little bit more, let me know down in the comments. But that's where we can now generate our videos inside of here. We can also, because this is the normal Firefly video model, we've got all of our different camera angles, etc. And we can also choose the different Firefly video models, whether that's VO or Ray, Pica, etc. And you can see, depending on which one it is that you choose, depends on how that looks. And you can change the aspect ratio to be portrait or to be vertical. And then the last item that I want to show you on here is, again, the text editor. We did have a brief look at this beforehand, but we can see as we hover over particular areas, we can see it starts highlighting that. And on here, if we wanted to, let's say we had to change something in the transcript. Let's say I'd said, particularly in this particular one here, I'd originally said 2026, and I want to edit the transcript there. And I could come up and correct the transcript, and let's say I want to say that actually says, I should have said 2027, and it had misheard me, and then I could correct. I can choose then, if that's a commonly used word that it's not recognizing that I am saying on a regular basis, we can then choose to correct all or click cancel. I don't want to give them any incorrect information. But that's where we can then come in and correct our transcripts. Now, a couple of other useful features on here are in the 3 dots up here. We can see we can actually auto scroll, show pauses, and export our transcript as an SRT file. So if you want to provide subtitles like I do for my YouTube channels, we can now export the actual transcript as an SRT file and upload that to the required platform, which is for things like YouTube. I've not really seen that on Instagram before or TikTok, but I use it on my YouTube videos, so that's available there in the transcripts area of the Firefly Video Editor. And that's everything I've got to show you today for the Firefly Video Editor as it currently stands in beta mode. As I say, it is in beta mode. They're going to be adding options and changing things. So if you spot something that's a little bit different, or you have any questions on anything that I've covered off today, let me know down in the comments below. Give us all those good things like the thumbs up, consider subscribing, save it to your own playlist for future references. Check out the description for all of the timestamps for all of the different areas of this video. Hope this is helpful for you, and until next time, thank you very much, and bye for now.